Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Space Explorers and the Age of Ambition expansion by 25th Century Games.
Space Explorers is a game by 25th Century Games that came out not too long ago, a few years back, and now they are releasing the Age of Ambition expansion, and it is coming to GameFound, so make sure to check out the GameFound campaign link down below in the description of this video after you've watched it. And we're going to share our thoughts on the base game as well as the Age of Ambition expansion, as we've not reviewed Space Explorers. And also with this GameFound campaign, 25th Century Games is also releasing Prehistory's Evolutions, and we've done a video previewing that as well, so you'll want to click the I in the top right corner to watch that video. But right now we're going to go down below. I'll show you what comes in the Age of Ambition expansion, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on both of these boxes. All right, here's Space Explorers Age of Ambition expansion. I do want to start off by letting you guys know that what you see here is not necessarily the final product. This is still prototype, although I am told that this is very close to being final. So you do want to check out the GameFound campaign page to make sure of any changes that you might see after it is released from the crowdfunding campaign. That being said, let's go ahead and show you what comes in this new Age of Ambition expansion. I'm not going to go over the rules for Space Explorers, just going to show you what's inside Age of Ambition, All right, so first off, you have a new solo board, so you are able to play this game in solo mode, and how this is going to work, you do also have a solo rule book here, and how this is going to work, you're going to have your different projects lined up in these different slots, depending on how many different types of project cards it requires for you to accomplish. So if it requires 4, then you're going to line them up in this slot right here. 3 obviously goes there, 2 will go there. And so these are going to rotate around this board every time your opponent gains a card of that particular color that matches the requirements for that project. And after it rotates all the way around the board and the 9th one comes out, then your opponent, the solo AI opponent, will have accomplished that particular project card. So you're racing the opponent trying to complete the different projects. That's the solo campaign there. And so our other additions are you are going to have 7 different modules that you can add to this game, and you are going to have a deck of cards here, 1 for each module. You're going to shuffle these up, reveal 3, and that is going to show you what 3 to add to your game. Of course, you can just pick what 3 you want, but this is a way to randomize it. These cards come in this. Your first expansion is going to be the Space Powers module. Now, you have 1 of these boards for each of the 4 players, and each of these represent different countries. You've got Japan here, green is going to be France, red is going to be Russia, and blue is going to be the United States. And with these boards, you are going to keep track of the different tokens that you gain throughout the course of the game. These tokens are going to be on the cards that are available to draft in the market, and when you take one of your own player color, you're going to slot them in these slots right here. When you take one of the other player's color tokens, then you are going to put them in this slot right here, and that's going to give you more points at the end of the game, depending on how many of the other players' colors that you were able to collect, whereas your own tokens are going to give you special abilities to be able to do throughout the course of the game. That's probably the most complex module that's being added in these 7 different modules. The next most complex is going to be the Prominent Leaders expansion. And so that's going to be this deck of cards right here. And they're going to come in 2 different fashions here. You're going to have your politicians, which are going to have these cards, both of these cards are going to have their own requirements to recruit them, and they're going to be in the market in addition to your researchers that you're trying to add to your hub. And some of the cards are going to have a requirement that you need to try to fulfill, such as having 2 cards in hand at the end of the game. And if you're able to do that, you'll get 3 points. And if you're not able to do that, then you'll have -2 points in this particular case. And the researcher here on this side, he is going to give you points depending upon how many of of his variety that you have. So this is a set collection. So if you only have the one, it's worth 2 points. And if you have two, 5, so on and so forth. So that's pretty easy to add into your games. The next particular module that you can add to the game is going to be the Impending Crisis. You have 2 different types of cards here. You're going to take so many of these of this single crisis and the double lightning bolt there, and you're going to shuffle these together into a deck, and you're going to reveal 2 at a time. And the Impending Crisis is going to be the card that is coming up, and the current crisis is the one that is on the left here. And you're going to have this token keep track of where you're at on these different crises, and there's going to be a penalty that you have to pay throughout the course of the game in order to endure the crisis. And after it has moved down so many times, after somebody takes a 3rd specialist in their hub, or they've completed a project, or they take a card into hand, then that's going to advance the crisis token on down the line here and progress through these different crises. This makes the game a little bit more tough, but it also adds a new end game condition, as once you've worked through the deck of crises, then the game is going to be over. So that can cause the game to end abruptly. All right, so the 4th module that you can add to your game is going to be this these stack of tiles over here, and these are the strategic goals. And so how this is going to work, each player is going to get a stack of 8 tiles in their player color. They're going to randomize these up, shuffling them up, and selecting 5 to play with. And each one of these are going to go over the different hubs of the different colors of hubs in your hub display. So you know how you have 5 different colors. Each one of these are going to be assigned to each one, and you are going to hopefully try to fulfill what is on that particular token to flip it over to gain the in-game bonus at the end of the game for that particular hub. So this one would be 1 point for every card in that particular hub, so long as at some point in the game I have taken 3 cards into hand. And so each one of these has their own requirement to flip them over to be able to gain the benefit on the back. That one is pretty easy to understand. The 5th module that you can add to your game, that is going to be the Executive Talents. Now, these are basically variable player powers that you can randomize and set up the game with, and this is an ability that that particular player gets to do throughout the course of the game, and they're pretty powerful. They're things that are going to require an additional token here to keep track of what you're doing on that particular variable player power. Pretty easy to understand those. And then the 6th module are going to be these 4 tiles here, the Remarkable Projects. So these are going to give you double-sided new projects that you are going to be trying to complete. They're going to have their own requirements to complete them there, and then they're going to give you different types of points. So for instance, the Zond 3 here is going to give you 2 points for every card in your hub at the end of the game that gave you 0 points. So that's actually going to make those 0 points cards more valuable. Then the last module, the easiest one to add into the game, that's going to be the Higher Directives module. So what's going to happen here, every player is going to start the game with one of these tokens, and this is going to act like a research token that you are able to use as any particular token, but you have to have a token when using this. So for instance, if I had, let's say, one of the blue tokens, I could add that blue token to this token, and it would act as 2 blue tokens. And I would hand that to the other player when I am paying for a particular resource or researcher. That's what you have here with the 7 different modules. You do have a rule book and a manual that's going to give you an even more detailed explanation for all of the different modules. You do also have a new player aid to help you to understand all the different icons, and that's what you get inside of this Age of Ambition expansion. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Space Explorers as well as Age of Ambition expansion. So Sam, what are your thoughts on the base game of Space Explorers?
Well, if anybody's been here long enough, they know what my favorite game is, and that is Splendor. Yep. And this is very much like Splendor. It has the same I'm going to lose all my thoughts. The same.
Well, you're drafting things from a market that are helping you to draft more things later on.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does have a little bit more to it, but there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And it's not the same game. It's definitely a different game.
Sure.
But that in itself makes me very much like this game.
Yeah, it definitely has Splendor-esque feelings about it and gives you a similar vibe as that game. But as you said, that this one is not Splendor.
Yeah, it's a different game for sure. There are, I mean, as you're drafting your cards, what they can do for you is different than in a Splendor game. It is a little bit more complex. I wouldn't say complicated, but more complex. There's more depth to it.
Absolutely. There's more icons that you have to be aware of.
Yes.
The player aid is extremely useful, extremely handy. In fact, I don't know that I would play the game without that player aid. I think you absolutely need it. But as it is, it's not an overly complicated game like Sam said. And still plays in about the same amount of time as a game of Splendor. So that's a great aspect to it as well.
Yeah.
Now, we have Age of Ambition expansion. And so what this is going to add, if you watch that rules portion of the video, this is going to add 7 new modules that you can add to your base game. Now, you're not going to add all 7 of them at the same time. At most, you would only want to add 3, but you can add just 1 or 2, and they come in differing degrees of complexity. The most complex modules aren't going to make this game super heavy, super thinky. They're going to add just enough to make you really have to redevelop your strategy and really rethink about what you're doing throughout the course of the game. The lightest modules are barely even little things that you even have to consider. You can add them into this box and you're not really adding too many rules at all. So I really like the variety of the modules that you get out of this, because you can make the game just slightly heavier or a little bit heavier. I think that's a good option of adding things in this. It also gives you the ability to add them randomly, as you've got the deck of cards that just randomly pick which ones you're going to add, and it's going to give you a unique gaming experience, as you're going to add 3 different modules out of the 7 available to you. So lots of replayability there with that. But not only all of that, you also have the solo module in this game. So I guess technically you do have 8 different modules in this little tiny box, which is really cool. And I know, Sam, you don't play games solo, but I do.
I'm doing that. We have a big problem.
That kind of goes against the idea of this channel. But I do play games solo, and so I love the fact that the solo mode is in this game. And I will tell you guys, it is extremely challenging. It is not an easy solo game, and you can play the solo mode on top of all of the other modules with this game. So that's really cool as well. So Sam, I know you mentioned Splendor is kind of your favorite game. This is like a new vibe to it. You add in these modules to it, and there's some in here that don't make the game that much more complicated.
Yeah.
For you as a non-gamer, why is it a good thing to be able to have modules, expansions that kind of give the game a new feel, but don't make it a whole new experience or make it like you're having to relearn a new game?
Well, I think as a non-gamer, I would rather just play the same game over and over. But when you have a relationship of any kind with a gamer, I think that's the best case scenario, because it is something I'm familiar with, something I played before, and you're just changing it up a little bit at a time. So both people can get what they want. He's getting a new game. I'm getting the same game with a little bit of variation. And I think any game that is good for a non-gamer, if they can add an expansion of some sort. I mean, not all games don't need an expansion, but it does help, because I don't want to learn a new game. I don't. And so I think that it's the best case scenario for both of us.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that, because there are times when you want a whole new, fresh experience with the familiar feelings of the base game. And then there's times where you really just want the base game with just a little bit added to it. You get both of those things here in this box. I'm thinking, the ones that are smaller, like the higher directives module, the executive talents. Those are smaller additions I could add to this game, and Sam's going to feel right at home with it. But if I'm playing with heavier gamers, I'm going to use those strategic goals, or I'm going to use the space powers module. Those are the ones that make the game a little bit more heavy, a little thinkier. And so I really like that you have both of the varieties here in this box. So really highly recommend Space Explorers in general. Is it one you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the Age of Ambition expansion is just going to make it all that much more sweeter. So really highly recommend checking out the GameFound campaign link down below. Now that you've watched this video, please leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about Space Explorers as well as the Age of Ambition expansion.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.